Hello, everybody. Welcome into Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today, we have a lot to talk about, starting off in the NBA. Lots of big news, some sad news. Kristaps Porzingis is questionable heading into Game 3. We'll talk about the impact of that on the Celtics looking to take a 3-0 series lead and the Mavericks looking to get their way back into the series. We're also going to talk about the passing of Jerry West, obviously a basketball great, both on and off the court in the executive office. His legacy, he was elected to the Hall of Fame 3 separate times. We'll talk about his legacy, what he's done for the game to grow the game, and everything to do with Jerry West. We're also going to talk a little bit of football. Aaron Rodgers is not at minicamp today. It's an unexcused absence. We'll talk about whether or not that's good for the team, what he might be doing that's unknown, and if this is really the best for the Jets right now. And then we're going to move into baseball to close off our show. There was a trade today between the Blue Jays and the Dodgers. The Blue Jays seemingly are going to be sellers at the deadline. They trade Calvin Biggio. Biggio is not, you know, a huge name, so it doesn't mean that they're tanking, getting rid of all of their stars, but it's an interesting kind of look ahead at what the future of their season might look like. And then we'll close our show talking about a potential Juan Soto contract as he looks to enter free agency, maybe getting up to upwards of $600 million from certain teams this offseason. But before we get into all of that, remember that if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all you would like to talk about, go ahead and throw that in the comments in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. Appreciate all of you guys for sticking around and talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon. But like I was saying, we are going to start off our show today in the world of the NBA basketball. The NBA Finals continue tonight. Game 3, Mavericks versus Celtics, the first game in Dallas. And the big storyline for this game is that the Celtics might be without star center who's been a huge part of their defense, Kristaps Porzingis. And I know we've kind of talked about this a lot. If you were watching yesterday's show, we did a breakdown of what the injury was. It's a very rare injury, something that I know I personally have not seen in sports. It's being called serious by the Celtics. They're only going to let him play if the medical staff clears him. That's the only way he's going to play. He's going to play if he can. That's what he says. His heart is in it. He wants to play. Clearly, everything that he's saying is basically along the lines of, hey, if they're going to let me play, I'm going to go. I would even go if they wouldn't let me, but it's not up to me. It is up to the medical team. Again, he's still questionable. I actually expect an update to that story relatively soon. So we'll see, because the game is in just a couple hours. So maybe we'll get an update to whether or not he is playing while we're talking about that. Well, we're talking about it on the show today. But Kristaps Porzingis misses this game. We're going to go off that assumption because everything that I'm seeing doesn't sound like good news for Kristaps Porzingis. What does this look like for the Boston Celtics? Because this is a Boston Celtics team that has dominated this series, right? In game 1, they outplayed them completely, almost every phase of the game. In game 2, they had a poor shooting night, which has been the downfall of this Celtics team, really in the entire Joe Mazzulla era. They haven't had, whenever they're not shooting well, they tend to lose, and they were able to pull that victory out in large part because of Kristaps Porzingis. And I know there wasn't anybody that really filled up the stat sheet in game 2, but his defensive presence is something that the Mavericks have yet to figure out. If you go back and you watch the Mavericks versus Timberwolves series, that Western Conference Finals, you have arguably a better defense in the Minnesota Timberwolves, right? The Minnesota Timberwolves, who have Defensive Player of the Year Rudy Gobert, 4-time Defensive Player of the Year Rudy Gobert. They have Jaden McDaniels on the outside, but what the what the Mavericks were able to do against the Timberwolves, where they were able to draw the bigs up and they weren't able to stop the backdoor cut, those lobs. And that is what was killing the Timberwolves. That's what made the Mavericks, that's what helped the Mavericks make that series look easy, right? This is not the case with the Celtics, right? The Celtics, especially when they have Kristaps Porzingis in there, he is long and athletic enough that even if you draw him up, he's able to defend those back cuts, and you can't get those lobs over him. That bread and butter of the Dallas Mavericks offense, it's not there. Now you get the chance without Porzingis to attempt that same strategy that worked so well against one of if not the best defenses in the entire league, against another top tier defense in the NBA, and I think that's going to make it a huge difference. If he doesn't play, Al Horford is going to get a lot more minutes. And if there's one thing that we've noticed with Al Horford, it's that once he hits about 30 minutes of playing time, he kind of, I guess, runs out of energy. And, as a sixth man, he's not going to play 30 minutes a game, but when he's your starting center and then you have Luke Cornett as your backup behind him, it's not really a easy solution, right? You don't have that option to go to in those clutch moments. Kristaps Porzingis has been a huge part of offensively, even though he's come off the bench the last 2 games. He's been, in the crunch time, he's been out there. He's been kind of the center point of the offense down the stretch, and he's coming off missing 5 weeks with a calf injury. He missed basically the entire playoff run. He got hurt, I believe, in Game 4 against the Heat. And, it hasn't really mattered because the Celtics are a juggernaut of a team, but when you're playing against Luka Doncic and the Mavericks, and I truly do believe that Kyrie Irving will get right at some point in this series, when you're playing against these guys, Luka's going to beat you every time, right? And I've really loved how the Celtics have said, hey, Luka's going to beat us, just don't let anybody else beat us, right? And I think that's the right strategy to play against this Dallas Mavericks. We've seen teams try to go all out against Luka and that not work for them because Luka's going to get his no matter what. Being able to stop Kyrie Irving has been what they're doing, and I think Porzingis has really been a huge part of that. Kind of underrated down low. His rim protection is something that I think is crucial for this Boston Celtics team to continue to be as dominant as they are. Now, does this mean that if Porzingis misses the rest of the series, misses 1 game, 2 games, that the Celtics can't win? No, because this Celtics team is great, and this Celtics team is just flat out better than this Dallas Mavericks team. It's not a situation where, this is an even series and you lose one of your best players. You lose one of the top 6 players and you still have 4 of the top 5, right? That is a really good situation to be in for the Celtics. And, it's a much different situation when they're up 2-0 as opposed to being tied 1-1 or down 2-0. They have a cushion. Do I expect Porzingis to miss the entire series? No. Do I think that if Porzingis plays if he plays tonight and then plays Game 4, this is a completely different outlook of the series? Absolutely. I think that if he plays, if he's healthy, the Celtics end up sweeping this. The Celtics team is, like I said, they're just a better team. It's kind of a mismatch for the Dallas Mavericks. But unfortunately, he is out. He's most likely out. Again, still questionable for tonight. We'll probably hear more about it as the show goes on, but most likely out tonight from everything that I have been seeing and reading. If he's out tonight, I think Dallas takes it. I think that's a huge blow offensively and especially defensively. They kind of held on by a thread, and I know they're not going to shoot 10 of 40 from 3 every single night, but Kyrie also isn't going to play that badly every single night. Back at home with Mavericks fans cheering him on, I think that, he'll be able to bounce back, play a good game tonight, because this is kind of do or die. You don't want to go down 3-0 in the NBA Finals, especially against a team as good as these Boston Celtics are. Now, anything can happen in the game of basketball, but I think Porzingis is the key to Game 3, and he kind of is the key to this entire series. He's not the only thing that matters, but when we were doing our series breakdown, the key for the Celtics was those secondary stars. Porzingis, Drew Holiday, Derek White, those secondary stars, and they've really shined. We're having Finals MVP debates, not talking about Jason Tatum, not really talking about Jaylen Brown, but talking about Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. That's those secondary stars. That's why they've been so successful. Uh, but it's going to be a big loss if Porzingis is unable to go tonight. We'll hear more about it. Like I said, I expect to hear update on his health probably about halfway through the show, and I will give you those updates as soon as I get it. But in our next segment, we are going to we're going to finish off our coverage of the NBA. Sad news today in the world of basketball as Jerry West unfortunately passed away. Icon, legend, the logo of the NBA. We'll take a look at his storied career, both on and off the court, and everything he meant to the world of basketball. So stick around for that. We'll be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.